Hello everyone, welcome to the Hindu analysis by LTX classes. My name is Sairam. Happy to announce that LTX classes has came up with a great initiative to deal the articles appear on the Hindu on a daily basis comprehensively. Now without any further delay, let us get into our first article. Let us look at the first two articles of our today's discussion. The title of the first article says, Eknath Shinde is Maharashtra CM, Fadnavis his deputy. And the title of our editorial says, Do not weaken the Anti-Defection Law. These two articles actually fall under GS Paper 2 of our UPSC Civil Service Examination, precisely from Polity and Governance. I picked up the first article from the first page of the Delhi edition of the Hindu, and I picked up the second article from page number 6 of the Hindu's Delhi edition. Clearly, this article is actually talking about the ongoing Maharashtra political crisis, and the rebel leader from the incumbent government of Maharashtra, Eknath Shinde, is sworn in as the 20th Chief Minister of Maharashtra, and the BJP leader named Devendra Fadnavis was sworn in as his deputy. So needless to say, the ongoing political crisis in Maharashtra have raised many questions and many concerns on the effectivity of our anti-defection law, which is a part of 10th schedule of our constitution. Now in today's discussion, let us try to understand what is actually happening in Maharashtra and also important provisions of anti-defection law, important exceptions of anti-defection law, and important concerns and challenges associated with anti-defection law. Let us try to discuss all these aspects in a very comprehensive manner from the background. Having said that, I am moving on to this discussion. Please pay attention. First up, what was in news? Finally, a new government formed in the state of Maharashtra. Mr. Eknath Shinde, who was the rebel from the previous government, sworn in as the 20th Chief Minister of Maharashtra. And the renowned leader from the BJP party, Devendra Fadnavis, he was sworn in as his deputy Chief Minister of Maharashtra. Of course, all this happened after a drama, long serious political drama. Before knowing all the events that led to the formation of this new government, let me tell you, all these dramatic events and these extraordinary events raised doubts on the functioning of anti-defection law, which was enacted by our parliament way back in 1985 to check political defections. Defections means jumping from one party to other party. It's simply changing one's allegiance to one political party. Of course, in a democratic polity like India, defection is unacceptable. Defection is undemocratic. Defection is unfair, that is for sure. Before going to know about anti-defection law, let us know about this Maharashtra political crisis 2022. If we trace the origins of this particular political crisis and political chaos, I may say, we need to get to 2019 Maharashtra political crisis. So let us start from the background and let us analyze this particular topic in a very comprehensive manner. Having said that, let me invite you all on a great journey of the comprehensive Hindu analysis by LTX classes. Let us look at the background of this article first and let us discuss anti-defection law in a comprehensive manner. So when did it all start? In the year 2019, many states went to polls along with the parliamentary general elections. One of the states that went to polls in 2019 was Maharashtra. So on 24th October 2019 Legislative General Assembly election results were out. And out of the total 288 seats in Maharashtra Legislative Assembly, BJP, Bharatiya Janata Party, emerged as the single largest party by winning 105 seats out of 288. And Shiv Sena, it won 56 seats. And Indian National Congress, it won 44, and the NCP, Nationalist Congress Party, it won 54 seats. But remember, there was a pre-poll alliance between BJP and Shiv Sena. BJP and Shiv Sena alliance, which was a pre-poll alliance, that means they allied before the elections, they secured a comfortable majority to form the government. So you know the total assembly seats in Maharashtra were 288. Then what will be the magic number? 144 will be the magic number. That means that political party which secured more than 144 seats can be eligible to form the government, isn't it? So here BJP and Shiva Sena alliance, they got good number of seats, around 161 seats. So they were in a good position to form a new government. But in a sudden shock to Maharashtra politics, they both parted ways. After 25 years of long and strong relationship, they both parted ways because of a conflict of rotational chief ministerialship. What Shiva Sena said after the declaration of Legislative Assembly election results? There was a pre-poll agreement between BJP and Shiva Sena, that is us and Shiva Sena, on sharing chief ministerialship. That simply means for the first 2.5 years, a member or a leader from Shiva Sena will take the chief minister's office, and the rest of the 2.5 years, a political leader from BJP will take the chief minister's office. That was the agreement that was signed between us and BJP, claimed by Shiva Sena. But BJP denied it. BJP said no such agreement was signed between us. So there was no agreement on rotational chief ministerialship. Since we got more seats in this alliance, a candidate from BJP should hold the office of chief minister for the complete 5 years, for the whole 5 years. That's what claimed by BJP. Shiva Sena rejected and they both parted ways. Since they both parted ways after the elections, no party in Maharashtra had the required majority to form the new government, right? So because the magic figure was 144 and the BJP, single largest party in Maharashtra legislative elections 2019, it got only 105 seats, right? Neither Shiva Sena and Indian National Congress, NCP, were not in a position to form the new government, right? Now let's move to the next slide. Then the governor of Maharashtra did the right thing. The governor of Maharashtra, Bhagat Singh Koshyari, he invited the single largest party, that is BJP, to form the government. But BJP declined the offer, stating that they didn't have required numbers and required majority to form the government. And now, the governor of Maharashtra invited the second largest party, that is Shiva Sena, to form the government. Shiva Sena asked for more time, but governor declined right away. Then, the governor invited the third largest party, Nationalist Congress party, to form the government, to form the stable government. But even before the NCP's reply to his invitation, governor of the state, what he did? He submitted reports to the center on anarchy, absence of government in the state of Maharashtra, and the central cabinet got together, they met, and they decided that to impose president's rule in Maharashtra. They quickly advised the president to invoke president rule in the state of Maharashtra, and the president, who is merely a nominal head, who is just a rubber stamp, he right away invoked president's rule using the powers given by the constitution under Article 356. So in the meantime, the leader of the Shiva Sena party, Uddhav Thackeray, he met with the leaders of Indian National Congress and also Nationalist Congress party to form an alliance. Accordingly, all these three parties, along with some small parties and independent leaders, they formed an alliance, that is Mahavikas Aghadi. And when the time Shiva Sena party or Mahavikas Aghadi is about to form a new government in Maharashtra, and when the time all the news channels and print media are publishing that Uddhav Thackeray will be the 19th Chief Minister of Maharashtra, what the Prime Minister did, without even calling for a cabinet meeting, without even holding a cabinet meeting, in the midnight, he advised the president to revoke president's rule from Maharashtra using his extraordinary powers. The powers are guaranteed in the constitution, okay, but it is not a state of emergency. The government can wait for one more day to form the new government. But right in the middle of dead night, the president of the country, he revoked president rule from Maharashtra, and the BJP leader Devendra Fadnavis was sworn in as the chief minister of Maharashtra. And this Mahavikas Aghadi coalition, that is Shiva Sena, NCP and INC coalition, it approached the Supreme Court and pleaded the Supreme Court to order for a trust vote, to order for a confidence vote. The same day, the CM and his deputy, that is Devendra Fadnavis, and his deputy Ajit Pawar, they both resigned from their offices as Chief Minister and Deputy Chief Minister. And subsequently, the post-poll alliance, that is Mahavikas Agadi, that is Shiv Sena, NCP, Nationalist Congress Party, Indian National Congress, along with the support of other small parties, they formed a new government on 28th November 2019. That's what happened during 2019, which is famously called as Maharashtra Political Crisis 2019. I hope it is clear. Now let us look at what was the issue now. So what's happening in Maharashtra now? Let us get to the details. From the year 2019, from when the Mahavikas Agadi coalition alliance formed a new government in Maharashtra, to present, a rebel leader named Eknath Shinde was in favor of breaking ties with Mahavikas Agadi. So I already told you, from the past 25 years, both Shiv Sena and BJP used to have good terms between them, used to have good relation between them because of their ideology. They strongly work on Hindutva ideology, isn't it? So a Shiv Sainik, a staunch follower of Hindutva, Eknath Shinde, who was from Shiv Sena party, he strongly opposed Shiv Sena's coalition with NCP and Indian National Congress, and he always advocated re-establishing alliance with BJP again. And in May 2022, an issue happened nationwide. What was that issue? Nurpur Sharma issue. A BJP spokesperson named Nurpur Sharma, she came up with a derogatory comments on the spiritual Islamic teacher, that is Prophet Muhammad. And you all know, entire Islamic community were very enraged by this particular move. And even the Chief Minister of Maharashtra, then Chief Minister of Maharashtra, Uddhav Thackeray, he condemned these statements. And this condemnation by the Chief Minister himself, who used to be a staunch follower of Hindutva ideology, it hurt the sentiments of Shiv Sena and Shiv Sainiks, who were the volunteers of Shiv Sena party. And one of the rebel leader, that is Eknath Shinde, who was very upset with the condemnation from his leader, that is Uddhav Thackeray, he started to form a new faction in Shiv Sena party. And from the 2019 itself, Shiv Sena was more affected with infighting among their leaders. That was clearly evident in recent Rajya Sabha elections as well. So the Mahavikas Agadi government had the capability of electing 6 leaders from their political party. But what happened? Due to the infighting and cross-voting of the MLAs from Mahavikas Agadi, the Mahavikas Agadi government managed to win only 5 seats. So this infighting, the clear manifestation of this infighting among Mahavikas Agadi gave strength to this rebel leader Eknath Shinde. What he did? He gathered 2/3 members from his political party, that is Shiv Sena party, to support his request. That means to break ties with Mahavikas Agadi and to join hands with BJP party. Of course, he raised this issue to the leadership of Shiv Sena party multiple times. He tried to make the leadership understand about their coalition with NCP and INC and how these Shiv Sainiks are disappointed with this coalition. But the leadership largely ignored his suggestions. So he gathered 2/3 members from his party to support his request. What was his request? To break ties with MVA and to join hands with BJP. And the crisis began on this month, that is 21st June 2022, when Shinde and several other MLAs, legislators of the Mahavikas Agadi government, especially from Shiv Sena party, they moved to Surat, which was a strong fort of BJP party, isn't it? Surat is in Gujarat. Gujarat is a strong fort of BJP party. They moved to Surat and they again moved to Assam, Guwahati. The Deputy Speaker of the Legislative Assembly, what he did? He issued disqualification notices to the 16 rebel MLAs. Those who are with Eknath Shinde, those who are part of his faction, and asked for their reply within 48 hours. Within 48 hours, you need to report on this issue. We need to come up with your reply on their extraordinary recent actions. Then the apex court, the Honorable Supreme Court of India, it intervened and gave them a week's time to reply to the notice. 48 hours is very less time according to the Supreme Court of India. So the apex court extended the deadline to 5 more days. Moments after Supreme Court's verdict, hours after Supreme Court verdict, the Shiv Sena leader, the Chief Minister of Maharashtra, Uddhav Thackeray, he resigned from the Chief Minister's office, and the Shinde plus BJP coalition, the rebel from Shiv Sena party Eknath Shinde and BJP coalition, they succeeded in forming the new government in Maharashtra. And this rebel leader Eknath Shinde was sworn in as 20th Chief Minister of Maharashtra, and BJP leader Devendra Fadnavis was sworn in as his deputy. So this is what the entire background of this particular topic. Now, what was the catch, sir? Why are we discussing this particular political article as part of our Hindu analysis? This particular article had a great relevance with our GS paper 2, Polity and Governance subject. We read anti-defection law from polity and governance, and it is very important in the exam perspective. If you look at recent prelims paper, that is prelims 2022 GS paper, there appeared a question on this particular anti-defection law. And this particular case of Maharashtra, it raised many doubts on the effective function of anti-defection law and the concerns around anti-defection law. Don't worry, I will discuss anti-defection law in great detail for you. And let me assure this, you can answer any question related to anti-defection law just by listening to our analysis. Having said that, let us move to the important topic, that is anti-defection law. So first things first, let us try to understand the meaning of defection. Defection simply means party jumping, party hopping, or changing or modifying one's allegiance to their own political party and jump to the other political party. Let me give you an example to make you understand what defection is on a whole. Let me put it this way. For example, I am a political leader who was given ticket by Congress party. Indian National Congress has given the ticket to contest in elections. And there was another party, that is BJP, also contested in general elections. Let's say after the results of the elections were out and there was a situation that no single political party was able to form the government, no single party able to secure the magic figure, the required majority to form the government. Then the newly emerged single largest party, which is unable to form the government on its own, it may bribe me, it may buy me by offering some money, by offering incentives, by offering a ministerial position. Then me, who was given the ticket to contest in elections by the Congress party, after elections, post polls, if I jump into the BJP because of money or the position they offer, then it is called defection. Why defection is dangerous to a democratic structure like India, democratic polity like India? Let us take this as an example. The people of my constituency, the voters of my constituency, may not vote for me because I am Sairam. They might have voted for me looking at the ideology of Congress party, leftist ideology. They might have voted for me looking at Sonia Gandhi or the charisma of Rahul Gandhi. Right? If I jump from my own party to the other party because they are offering money or they are offering position, etc., that is deceiving my people, isn't it? That is cheating my people. I am cheating the trust of my people, my voters, isn't it? That is the reason why defection is immoral, defection is unfair, defection is undemocratic, defection is a wrong practice in a democratic structure. I hope it is clear. Let me give you another example. Let's take Congress party and BJP party again. This time I was offered ticket from the BJP party to contest in elections. And let's suppose BJP, that is my party, secured required majority of seats to form its own government, to form the government on its own. But let's say Congress party had huge money. It has enough money to buy me. It has enough money to buy my allegiance to my previous party, to my home party, that is BJP. But attracted by the offer I have received from the Congress party, if you jump from BJP party, me along with some other parliamentarians jump from BJP to Congress, BJP might lose its required majority to form the government. Here the people voted for BJP to form the stable government, but just because me and my fellow parliamentarians, my fellow legislators jumping from BJP to the Congress, I am deceiving the voters, I am deceiving the people of India, isn't it? So that is the reason why defection is wrong. Defection is a very, very, very wrong practice. I hope the concept of defection is clear to you. Let us look at the definition on paper. Defection is simply defined as either voluntarily giving up the membership. If you voluntarily give up your membership from your own party, or disobeying the directives, the rules and the norms or the political whip of your own party leadership in the voting legislature. Let me explain this to you with an example. Let us take you are a member of BJP party. BJP party's leadership decided to come up with an act called Citizenship Amendment Act. So before becoming an act, this particular law must be introduced in the parliament. If the BJP leadership decides to introduce this particular law in the parliament the next day, then the political whip who takes care of the disciplinary aspects among the leaders of the political party, legislators of the political party, he will send you a message stating that our leadership, BJP leadership, has decided to introduce a law on citizenship and you are supposed to vote in supportive of this particular law. But I may have a different ideology. Despite receiving the norms and the directives from the political whip, if I vote against this Citizenship Amendment Act, then that also accounts to defection. That can also be called as defection. Hope the topic of defection, the definition of defection is clear from this slide. Right? Now let us look at different provisions of anti-defection law, which is a part of 10th schedule of our constitution. And also let us look at the background of anti-defection law. Pay attention, you will understand the entire topic very, very easily. So, anti-defection law. Anti-defection law was formally incorporated in the 10th schedule of our Indian Constitution. And what is the rationale, what is the motive behind anti-defection law? To prevent or to check political defections. So, defection simply means jumping from one party to the other. And what is the rationale behind enacting this anti-defection law? What is the rationale behind incorporating 10th schedule to our Indian Constitution? To check political defections, to check leaders from jumping from one party to the other. And this anti-defection law was passed by our parliament in 1985 because before 1985 there were many instances where many state governments were collapsed due to these political defections. And that is a threat to democracy. That is the reason why, in order to safeguard democracy in the country, Parliament has come up with this anti-defection law in 1985. And through an amendment in 2002, this anti-defection law was strengthened and this anti-defection law was made more efficient. And the point to note here is 10th schedule of the Constitution, which is popularly referred as anti-defection law, was inserted by the 52nd amendment to the Constitution. So this Parliament made this 52nd amendment to the Constitution in the year 1985 to introduce this anti-defection law, to introduce 10th schedule into our Constitution. Why Parliament enacted this particular anti-defection law? To ensure that a party member doesn't violate the mandate of the party. You all know that every party has their own ideology. Every party has their own mandate. A party member, a member from that political party shouldn't cross or shouldn't violate or shouldn't practice any action that is violative of party's ideology or party's mandate. That is the reason why, to ensure this, Parliament has come up with this particular anti-defection law. If in case one person violates the mandate of the party, violates the ideology of the party, go against the political directives of that particular party, he will lose his membership of the house. That means he will be disqualified as a member of that particular house. And this law applies to both Parliament and state legislature as well, state assemblies as well. Very important point, you need to remember this. Now let us look at some important provisions under anti-defection law or 10th schedule of our constitution. Recently in prelims 2022, there appeared a question on anti-defection law, especially on the provisions of the anti-defection law. And by the completion of this particular class, I am pretty sure you will be able to answer that particular question very easily. So under anti-defection law, they mentioned some grounds for disqualification of a member of the house. Now let us look at when a member can be disqualified and on what grounds a member can be disqualified from the house according to anti-defection law. The first point, if an elected member gives up his membership of a political party voluntarily. Let me explain this with an example. BJP party has given me the ticket to contest in general elections, but after the elections, if I decide to give up my membership with the BJP and join hands with Congress, then it is called defection. Voluntarily, on your own, if you take this decision of jumping from one party to the other, it simply accounts to defection. This is the first basic point. And now let us look at the second important point. If he votes or abstains from voting in the house, contrary to any direction issued by his political party. I already gave you an example on this particular provision. Let us take BJP party wants to come up with formulas and BJP leadership, BJP political whip has directed me to vote in supportive of these formulas. But contrary to the direction given by political leadership, if I vote against these particular formulas or if I am abstain from voting, that means not participating in this particular voting exercise, then it accounts to defection. Of course, there will be a window period of 15 days. Within 15 days, you need to explain the reason behind your action. You need to explain why you exercised your vote in contrary to the directions or rules given by the political leadership. If your party's leadership found your explanation satisfactory, then they may forgive you or they may direct the Speaker of the House to take disciplinary actions, disqualifying actions on you. Right? These are two important provisions of anti-defection law. Let us look at the next important provision. If an independent member joins any political party, let me explain this with an example again. If you are an independent member who contested in general elections independently without showing your allegiance to any political party and subsequently you won in elections and later after the elections, after the polls, after the declaration of election results, if you join hands with any of the political parties, then it accounts to defection. An independent member is not supposed to join any other political party during his entire tenure. Right? I hope it is clear. If any nominated member joins any political party after the end of 6 months, I hope you all know this provision. 12 members will be nominated to Rajya Sabha for every 2 years because of their contributions to arts, science and social services by the President. President nominates 12 members to Rajya Sabha by taking into consideration of their service to the nation. Right? So, if these 12 members, if they want to join any political party, they can join within 6 months of their nomination. But they cannot join after the 6 months of their election. So, if they join any other political party after the 6 months of their nomination, then they can be disqualified under the provisions of anti-defection law. This was actually asked in recent prelims paper. I hope it is clear till now. I am moving forward. And the 10th schedule of our Indian Constitution, that is anti-defection law, explicitly mentioned some exceptions as well for the disqualification of members. The first exception is when there is a case of merger, when there is a situation where 2/3 of the legislators of a political party decide to merge into another party, then neither members who decide to join nor the ones who stay with the original party will face disqualification. Again, let me explain this one with an example. First, suppose there were 90 legislators in the lower house of our parliament, that is Lok Sabha, 90 MPs. If 2/3 of the members, ante among these 90 legislators, 60 MPs shifts to or jumps to, defects to BJP party, then neither these 60 MPs nor the rest of the legislators in the Congress party, that means 30 legislators in the Congress party, they face disqualification. If there is a case of merger, this particular anti-defection law will not be applied. And sadly, these political parties and political leaders are using this particular loophole, this particular provision to defect from one party to the other. If there is one rebel, he gathers the support of other 2/3 members. Suppose there were 90 legislators from the Congress party, and among them one leader, if he is disappointed with the leadership, then he gathers other 59 members. He gathers the support of, he seeks the support of other 59 members, and on a whole, these 60 members jumps to BJP party to avoid disqualification. So critics say that, not me, critics say that this exception in the anti-defection law is leading to formation of different factions in political parties. Political parties are suffering with the formation of different factions, and these factions on a whole are defecting from their home party, their parent party, to the other party, right? So this is one of the important exception. Second one, any person elected as chairman or speaker, simply presiding officer of any house, can resign from his party and rejoin the party if he demits that particular post. Let me explain this with an example again. If I am a legislator elected with the ticket of Congress party, for suppose, I can resign voluntarily from the Congress party without attracting any disqualification according to anti-defection law. But after resigning from my own political party, I shouldn't join other political party. If I join other political party like BJP, I will be disqualified from the house. That is for sure. So if you are elected to a constitutional office, that is as Speaker of Lok Sabha or Deputy Speaker of Lok Sabha, Chairman of Rajya Sabha, Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha, I can voluntarily give up my membership to that particular party, and I will not attract any disqualification, because I may do that in order to be impartial in the day-to-day affairs of the house, right? Suppose if I join any other party after resigning to my political party, then I will be subjected to disqualification. This was the first case. Let me give you the second case again. Rejoin the party if he demits that particular post. What does that simply mean? If I am elected as Speaker of Lok Sabha and I want to be impartial in the day-to-day affairs of the house, so I resign from the party which has given me the ticket to contest, that is Congress party, and I never joined any other political party, so I will not be subjected to disqualification. If in case all the other members of our house decided to remove me as the chairman, remove me as the speaker, then if I lose my position as speaker or chairman, I need to join the original party, the parent party that gave me the ticket, but not any other party. If I join after my removal, if I join my parent party, the party that gave me the ticket, that is Congress party again, I will not be subject to disqualification. But after my removal, if I join BJP party, Bharatiya Janata party, or any other party, I will be subjected to disqualification. I hope you understood both these exceptions in anti-defection law or 10th schedule of Indian Constitution. Now the $1 million question. Who was the deciding authority? Who decides whether a member should be disqualified or not? Who has the authority to deliberate or discuss on or come up with a decision on one member should be qualified or not? Any question regarding disqualification arising out of defection is to be decided by the presiding officer of the house. Presiding officer of the house. If it is Lok Sabha, either speaker or in the absence of speaker, the decision should be taken by deputy speaker. If it is Rajya Sabha, the decision should be taken by chairman, or in the absence of chairman, deputy chairman of Rajya Sabha. If it is the case with the Legislative Assembly or Vidhana Sabha, then the decision will be taken by the speaker, or in his absence, the decision will be finalized by deputy speaker. If it is legislative council or Vidhan Parishad, then the decision will be taken by chairman, or in his absence, deputy chairman. Right? And one thing you need to remember, there is no time limit binding on the presiding officer to decide on the aspect of disqualification, to decide on the issue of disqualification, right? And this is another loophole. It is being used by many political parties to avoid defection. I hope it is clear till now. And the next question is the decision of the presiding officer subject to judicial review? Can we challenge the decision of the presiding officer in courts? Originally, the Act provided that the presiding officer decision, the decision taken by the presiding officer, was final and it is binding on the member and could not be questioned in any court of law. Through that particular provision, Anti-Defection Law explicitly, clearly provided judicial immunity to the decision of speaker. But in Kyoto-Holahan case in 1993, in a landmark judgment, the Apex Court, the Supreme Court, declared that this particular provision, which is ensuring judicial immunity or legal immunity to the speaker, to the speaker's office, is unconstitutional. It is violating the basic structure of the Constitution. So the basic structure of the Constitution includes judicial review as well. But this provision is grossly violating the provisions of Constitution, grossly violating the basic spirit of Constitution, and this particular provision should be repealed at any cost, and the decision of presiding officer will be subjected to judicial review. This is what the verdict given by the Supreme Court. And again, in this particular case, the Apex Court, the Honorable Supreme Court, held that while deciding a question under 10th schedule, while deciding a question under Anti-Defection Law, while deciding whether a member should be qualified or not, the presiding officer should function as a tribunal. He should function as a quasi-judicial body. He should be impartial at any cost. That is the reason why his or her decision will be subjected to judicial review. This is what held by the Supreme Court in this particular judgment, that is Kyoto-Holahan judgment. However, the Supreme Court made it clear that there might not be any judicial intervention until the presiding officer gives his order. The courts can intervene only after the presiding officer's issue of orders, but till then the courts cannot intervene in the functions of legislature, in the functions of presiding officers of the legislature. This is what held by the Supreme Court. You can clearly see the manifestation of this particular aspect in a recent example. The year 2015, Hyderabad High Court declined to intervene after hearing a petition which alleged that there had been a delay by the Telangana Assembly Speaker in taking action against a member under the Anti-Defection Law. What happened is, in the year of 2014, a member from one political party of Telangana state, he defected to other political party, which is in power then. Then the members and leadership of his home party, parent party, take this issue to the notice of Speaker of the House. While the Speaker is delaying in coming up with his own decision, the opposition party leaders, they approached Telangana High Court, they approached Hyderabad High Court to complain on the Speaker, who is biased towards his own party, who is not taking action on the defectant member on account of Anti-Defection Law. So then Hyderabad High Court came up with its own decision, came up with its own verdict that it cannot intervene in this particular process until the presiding officer gives his order. Right? So this is very important. Let's move to the next slide then. So the next question, is there a time limit within which the presiding officer should decide? I have already answered this particular question earlier. Let us look at this. There is no time limit as per the law, as per the Anti-Defection Law, as per 10th schedule of the Constitution, within which the presiding officer should decide on a plea for disqualification. He can prolong, he can delay the process forever. And this is the major loophole that is being used by many political parties in our country to avoid from disqualification under Anti-Defection Law. And even the courts can intervene, courts can make a decision, courts can take up this particular case only after the officer has made a decision. only after the presiding officer's decision was out. So the only option for the petitioner is to wait until the decision is made. So the petitioner should wait until the decision is made. So after the decision is out, he or she can approach courts. And there have been several cases where the courts have expressed concern about the unnecessary delay in deciding such petitions. These presiding officers, speakers or deputy speakers, chairmen or deputy chairmen, they're taking unnecessary time. They are actually delaying the process of disqualification using this particular provision. Many courts expressed their concerns over the exploitation of this particular provision according to the interests of different political parties. In a few cases, there have been many instances, many situations where members who are defected from one political party to the other, no, they continued to be house members. They were not subjected to disqualification. They were not disqualified under anti-defection law because of the delay in decision making by the presiding officer, that is speaker or chairman of the house. And there have also been instances where members from the opposition parties, members who elected to the house from the political party which is opposite to the party in power, they were appointed as ministers in the government. They are actually given the ministerial position in the government while still being members of their original parties in the state legislature. So on paper, they were members of other political party, opposition party, but they were given ministerial positions in the governments in power. So these are some concerns with the anti-defection law. So with this, I hope you clearly understood the ongoing political crisis in Maharashtra and the provisions of anti-defection law, exceptions of anti-defection law, and the concerns with anti-defection law. So with this, let's end this discussion on this particular topic and let us move to the next article. Now let us look at the next article of our today's discussion. The title of this particular article says 8 killed in Manipur landslip. And this article falls under GS paper 1 of UPSC Civil Service Examination, more precisely physical geography, and GS paper 3 of our syllabus. This article is also relevant in disaster management subject as well. Very important article. First let us try to understand what was exactly in news, and later let us try to understand this key term, that is landslip, and the causes of landslip, the mitigation of landslip, and the important initiatives by Government of India to mitigate the effects of landslips or landslides. Let us start the discussion. So what was in news? On the early hours of Thursday, Manipur suffered with a massive landslip wherein around 8 people were killed. As many as 45 are feared to be trapped in the debris. Debris means wastage, says army sources. The army personnel who were stationed in Manipur stated that around 8 people were killed in a massive landslip in Manipur and around 45 people were feared to be trapped in the debris. Many people were missing as well. So there were many villagers and local people, they went missing. Right? This is what was exactly given in our particular article. Now let us try to understand this important term, that is landslide or landslips. Let us try to understand the phenomenon of landslide or landslip in a comprehensive manner. These landslides actually occur when there is a movement of mass of rock or debris or earth down a slope. When a mass of rock or debris, that means wastage or earthly material, when it moves down a slope unconventionally, then it is actually called a landslide. And this term landslide, it encompasses many modes of slope movements. Example, falls, topples, slides, spreads, flows. We use these terms interchangeably while describing the phenomenon called landslide or landslip. Now, what were the causes of these landslides? Most predominantly, there were 3 important causes for these landslips to occur. Those are, one is geological, second one is morphological, and third one is anthropogenic. The first one is geological. Just by looking at this word, we can simply understand this phenomena. When the geological structures like rocks or the soil, if they weaken or if they lose power to hold a particular landmass, then it will erode or moves down a slope substantially. That is what geological cause. And the second one is morphological cause. Morphological, it simply relates to the structure of the land. If there is a substantial change in the structure of the land, then it will also cause a mass of rock or debris or earth to move down a slope. When these slopes, if they lose vegetation to fire, if they lose trees, flora to fire or drought, they are more vulnerable to landslides, because the better the vegetation is, that can better hold the soil, that can better hold or restrict the movement of these rocks. But when there is an absence of this vegetation, when there is an absence of this flora, then what happens? It is most likely for the mass of rock or debris or earth to move down a slope. That is what morphological causes. And the third one is anthropogenic causes. That means man-made causes. Illegal construction and development activities, they also cause landslides and landslips more frequently. And now let us look at what are important landslide prone areas in India. The entire Himalayan tract, the entire region of Himalayas and sub-Himalayan terrains of Northeast Asia and Western Ghats and the Nilgiris in Tamil Nadu, especially the hilly tracts of Indian subcontinent, they are more vulnerable to these landslides or landslips. So these are some important landslide prone areas. If we talk about the mitigation or control of these landslides, how we can mitigate or control the frequency of these landslides, the number of landslips, and how can we mitigate the impacts of landslides. Let us look at this. The first one is restriction on the construction and other developmental activities. By restricting some illegal construction activities and other developmental activities, we can actually control the number of landslides. Limiting agriculture to valleys. By refraining from the practice of agriculture in mountainous regions, by restricting agricultural activities only to valleys, we can actually limit these landslides, because the agricultural activities in the mountainous regions, the developmental and construction activities in the mountain regions, they are most likely to cause severe landslides and landslips. And the third one is control on the development of large settlements. With the rapid urbanization in India, especially in the mountainous regions, since the tourism sector is booming in the country, many 5-star hotels, many resorts are appearing in this particular tourist areas. So these illegal construction activities are actually paving the way for the occurrence of multiple landslides and landslips. And the next point, promoting large-scale afforestation programs. I already told you, deforestation and the lack of vegetation on the slopes, they actually causes many landslides and landslips, because the earth or the land loses its withholding capacity of soil or rocks in the absence of flora or thick vegetation. So by promoting afforestation programs, we can easily mitigate these landslides and landslips. And the next one is encouragement of terrace farming. I believe you all know this. In the mountainous regions, people tend to follow a traditional way of farming, that is jhum cultivation or shifting cultivation, wherein they actually get to a place and they clear the place, they clear all the trees and all the vegetation there, and after that they set fire to these trees and they leave those trees to be burnt completely, and they use the ashes of those trees as a fertilizer to the forthcoming future crops. What they do, after clearing all the trees, they actually plant seeds or they actually plant different crops there. So because of this particular type of cultivation, this particular practice of cultivation, what's actually happening? It causes a huge loss to the vegetation and tree wealth. So if there is no vegetation, if the land lacks tree wealth, what happens? The deforestation directly affects the number of landslides or landslips. If there are less number of trees in a particular area, that area will be more prone to these landslides or landslips that we have discussed already. So what is the solution here? In place of this jhum or shifting cultivation, the farming community from mountainous regions, they have to follow terrace farming technique, which largely helps in mitigating these landslides or landslips. Now let us look at the impacts of landslides and landslips. When a landslide or landslip occurs, there will be a huge loss of men and material in that particular area. There will be huge loss of lives and also public properties. And the second impact is it largely impacts livelihoods. The livelihoods of people will severely be affected with these landslides or landslopes. And third one, further erosion of soil. With the fast moving of a quick mass of land or rock, the soil in and around that particular place will also tend to move down the slope, right? So these are some impacts of landslides or landslips. Now let us go to the next slide. Let us look at the steps taken by Government of India so far. The Geological Survey of India, which is a nodal agency to study geological aspects and variations in Indian subcontinent. So it has done a nationwide landslide susceptibility mapping for 85% of the entire 4,20,000 square kilometers. Throughout the entire length and breadth of our nation, around 4,200 square kilometers of area was prone to these landslides, and Geological Survey of India was succeeded in mapping around 85% of this entire landslide prone area in the country. And the second important aspect was the areas have been divided into different zones. So the entire landslide prone area was divided into different zones according to the propensity of the disaster. Depending on how likely a landslide can happen in a particular place, Geological Survey of India divided the entire landslide prone area in India into different zones. And third one, improvement in the early warning systems. By ensuring and strengthening and boosting early warning systems, and by incorporating modern science and technological advancements in the field of disaster management, we can actually mitigate these landslides, landslopes, etc. Right? So this is all about this particular article. I hope you understood this particular article in great detail. Now without any further delay, let's get to the next article. Let us look at the next article of today's discussion. The title of this particular article says, Government keeps small savings interest rates unchanged. Very, very important article regarding GS paper 3. This article falls in economy subject of our UPSC civil service examination. Very, very important article, and don't worry, just like all the previous articles, let us try to analyze this particular article as well from the background. Let us try to analyze this particular article from the mere basics. Okay. Before understanding what exactly are these small saving interest rates, we need to understand what exactly are small saving schemes. So, small saving schemes are that type of schemes where the households of the country can deposit very small amounts as an investment. And for their deposits, the depositors also get some interest. And these interest rates will change every now and then, especially for every quarter, the Ministry of Finance will revise these interest rates according to the trends in the economy. Suppose macroeconomic indicators like inflation. Inflation means the phenomenon of rise in prices, right? Prices of commodities, goods, etc. And also bond yields. When government needs money, it issues bonds, right? And every bond will have a variable yield rates, with respect to the demand and supply of these bonds. So with respect to these bond yields and the inflation, macroeconomic indicators like inflation, demand and supply, governments will change the small interest rates of the small saving schemes for every quarter. That means for every 3 months. I hope it is clear till now. Let us get to the details of this particular article. So what was exactly in news? The government, that is Ministry of Finance, it has left the interest rates on small saving schemes such as Public Provident Fund, National Savings Certificate, etc. unchanged for the July to September quarter. So I already told you the interest paid on these small saving schemes will be revised for every quarter. For this quarter, that is from July to September, government decided not to touch the interest rates on small saving schemes. There will be many types of small saving schemes like Provident Fund and social security schemes, etc. I will discuss those aspects in a while. Please pay attention. So the small saving schemes or small saving instruments, we can say they are major source of household savings in India. majority of household members in India, they tend to save a part of their income with the government because government was the most reliable source for the people, right? And these small saving schemes comprise of 12 important instruments. So they can be broadly classified as postal deposits, savings certificates, and social security schemes like PF, PPF, EPF, etc., Public Provident Fund, Employee Provident Fund, etc. And the depositors who deposits their hard-earned money into the small saving schemes will get an assured interest on their money. They will get a definite amount of interest on their money. And whatever the deposits that were made to the small savings instruments, they will be credited to a special fund named National Small Savings Fund. And this particular deposits will be used by the government to fill fiscal deficit gaps. And the small saving schemes or small saving instruments, they are a key source of financing the government deficit. When there are extraordinary situations like pandemics and wars, government will fill the deficit gap by using the deposits from small saving schemes. And if we talk about the interest rates will be revised quarterly by the Ministry of Finance. The Ministry of Finance is responsible to revise the interest rates, change the interest rates, or continue the interest rates, previous rates of interest. In this case, the Finance Ministry opted for continuing and opted for not changing the previous interest rates for this quarter. And Shyamala Gopinath panel, this is very important point for your prelims examination. Shyamala Gopinath panel, which is an important committee constituted to suggest some recommendations on the performance of small saving schemes. It suggested a market-linked interest rate system for small saving schemes. Rather than changing the interest by the government itself, let the global market demand and supply decide the interest rates of these small saving schemes. So that will be beneficial for both the governments and the people as well. So, but government right away rejected it, and even now the Ministry of Finance is responsible for revising these interest rates on small saving schemes. I hope it is clear till now, right? So these are some important facts about small saving schemes, and this can be your potential prelims question. So you may get a prelims question on this particular topic. So I suggest you to follow the Hindu analysis by LTX classes every day, so that you get to understand a lot of concepts from the basics itself. Okay, let us get to our next article. So let us look at the next article of our today's discussion. The title of this particular article says Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, popularly known as UAPA, necessary to act against terrorists, says the minister. Very, very important article regarding GS paper 2, government policies and interventions, and GS paper 3, internal security related article. Now I picked up this article from the Hindu's Delhi edition from page number 10. So let us look at what was exactly in news, and later let us try to analyze this UAPA, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. So let us discuss about UAPA from the background. Okay, so let's get into the discussion. So what is the context of this particular article? A central minister named R.K. Singh, on Thursday, he participated in a conference by National Human Rights Commission on human rights in the Indian context. While participating in this conference, he came up with an interesting statement. What was the statement? It was necessary to have certain laws like the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act so that action could be taken against terrorists and those who behead other people. He clearly spoke about the significance of this particular very controversial act, that is Unlawful Activities Prevention Act or UAPA. I will discuss different aspects, different provisions of UAPA and the context of UAPA and what are the objectives of this particular act, why the parliament came up with this particular act, and when did this act came into existence, and different arguments in favor of UAPA and different concerns or challenges with respect to UAPA. Let us discuss everything in detail. So, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. This act was actually passed by the Parliament of our India in 1967. So, what was the context of this particular act? In 1960s, there emerged chaos In India, India faced many challenges politically, economically, ideologically, morally, etc. Especially in 1962, we faced a challenge from our neighbor, one of our good friends, then good friend, that is China. China waged a war on Indian land and it claimed that some of the parts of our Ladakh region were actually part of China. And in 1965, what happened? A Tamil Nadu minister, Annadurai, he came up with a new separatist demand that Tamil Nadu should be formed as a separate country as Tamiladesa. Both internally as well as externally, we faced much aggression, we faced much turmoil, we faced much chaos. And then Government of India came up with a very important act, that is Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, in order to check this aggression, especially internal aggression in India. So what is the aim of Unlawful Activities Prevention Act? It largely aims at effective prevention of unlawful activities associations in India. Those associations are those individuals which are involving in unlawful activities. They will be punished under this particular act. They will be treated separately under this particular act. And what is the definition for these unlawful activities? And what kind of actions and what kind of activities come under unlawful activities? Let's talk about it. This act, that is Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, it assigns absolute power to the central government. The central government, it is the nodal agency, it is the nodal body which decides which activities are unlawful, which activities comes under unlawful activities, which actions comes under unlawful activities. If the government at the center thinks that an activity should be treated as unlawful, it will release an official gazette. Through an official gazette, it declares one activity as an unlawful activity. And the punishments include, especially highest punishments include, those associations or those individuals who involves in these unlawful activities will attract punishments up to death penalty and life imprisonment as well. And this is very important point. Both Indian foreign nationals can be charged under Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. This is very important. If an Indian involves in an unlawful activity, then he will be punished for sure. And even a foreigner who involves in an unlawful activity, he or she will be punished for sure. And this is applicable even if the crime is committed on a foreign land, that is outside India. If an individual or an association is involving in a crime or unlawful activity in the foreign land outside India, then he or she will also be punished. He or she will also be tried under Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. These 2 points are very important, and I hope it is clear till now. Who had the absolute power to decide whether this activity, whether some activity is unlawful activity or not? It is the central government. The nodal body, the deciding authority rests with the central government, rests with the government at the center. I hope it is clear. Let us look at the next slide. Though this UAPA, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, was amended many number of times in 1969, 2004 and 2008, but the important amendments came in 2019. Very controversial amendments came in 2019. With the amendments made to Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, the central government included the provision of designating an individual as a terrorist. Till then, till 2019, till these amendments were added to the original Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, only an association can be designated as a terrorist organization or terrorist association. But with the amendments introduced in 2019, the term terrorist was also extended to a single individual as well, along with associations or organizations. And what is the enforcement authority? The enforcement authority is National Investigation Agency. It empowers the National Investigation Agency of the rank of inspector or above to investigate cases of terrorism in addition to those conducted by DSP or ACP or above rank in the state. I believe you all know that there was 7th schedule in our constitution. 7th schedule in the constitution, in our constitution, comprises of 3 lists. One is union list, second one is state list, and third one is concurrent list. the subjects under union list can be dealt by only the central government itself. The central government has the only authority to make laws on the subjects on the entries under union list. And we have some subjects in state list as well. And who have the authority to form laws, to make laws on these entries or these subjects? Only the state governments have the authority to frame laws on these subjects. And as far as concurrent list is concerned, both center and state governments are empowered to make laws on these subjects. So law and order was actually included in the state list. So if the center wants to conduct any raids or something as part of Unlawful Activities Prevention Act investigation, so this NIA, which is a central agency, it is not mandated to take the permission of DSP or ACP of that particular state. So it is actually a criticism. So critics say that, not me, critics say that this provision in the recent amendment, which actually undermines the federal spirit of our Indian constitution. So it actually undermines the power of the state to decide on their own law and order issues, right? And third point, Act empowers the Director General of National Investigation Agency to grant appeal to seizure or attachment of property when the case is investigated by the said agency. When the National Investigation Agency happens to investigate on the issues related to UAPA, they will have the full authority to seize assets or to attach assets. Though land and other assets, other related aspects come under the state list of 7th schedule, but this central agency, that is a National Investigation Agency, it has empowered by the recent amendment to seize a particular land of a man under question. Right? I hope it is clear till now. I hope you get to understand the recent amendments that made to Unlawful Activities Prevention Act in 2019. Now let us get to the next slide. Now let us look at some arguments in favor of Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, and later let us get to the concerns and challenges with respect to Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. First, what are the arguments in supportive of this particular act? The first point was speedy investigation and prosecution of terrorist offences. The supporters of this particular Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, they say that this act ensures speedy investigation of a particular case and the prosecution of the people or individuals who are involving in terrorist offences, who are involving in terrorist practices, who are involving in terrorist activities, right? And second important point is, it is actually in line with global trends. World superpowers like United States of America, United Kingdom, France, etc., they're investing largely on anti-terrorist measures. Right? Even the world superpower United States of America, it faced a lot of challenges with respect to terrorism. I hope you know about 9/11 attacks in New York. So the World Trade Center in New York was actually attacked by terrorists from Al-Qaeda group. Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda, they attacked this particular World Trade Center in United States of America, and wherein around 3,000 American people lost their lives. After that, United States of America included anti-terrorism in their annual agendas, right? So all the global powers, all the global leaders are actually concentrating more on anti-terrorist programs. So even an emerging power like India should have its own exclusive act for anti-terrorist activities, exclusive act that deal with anti-terrorist activities. And third important point, so there is a necessity of a strict law to strengthen investigation agencies. Though investigation agencies are committed to control, committed to lessen the number of terrorist offences or terrorist activities, but the loopholes in different laws, they help different offenders to escape strict investigations and the delivery of punishments. So, by enacting an exclusive law, by enacting a complete law, by enacting a full-fledged law for terrorist activities and terrorist offences will help a lot, and strengthen and boost the activities of investigation agencies. That's what the supporters of this UAPA Act has to say. And next is the burden of proof on the investigation agency, no denial of fundamental rights. Majority of critics actually criticizing this particular act on the grounds that this act is actually denying fundamental rights to the citizens of India. So it is actually a threat to a free country like India. But the supporters of this particular act, what they are saying and how they are defending this particular argument is the burden of proof on the investigation agency. The investigations agency, the nodal agency, that is NIA, National Investigations Agency, has to prove the guilty or has to prove the innocence of an individual. Right? The burden of proof was actually on investigation agency but not on the individual in question. That's how they are defending this particular act, UAPA Act. Now let us try to understand different challenges and different concerns with respect to Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. So challenges and concerns and criticism. I already told you the absolute power to define what comes under an unlawful activity was given to the center. So this provision of this particular act may be abused by the party in power at the center for their vested interests. Suppose, for example, if there is a journalist who criticized, different laws or different initiatives by the party in power at the center, then the party in power at the center use this particular law as an instrument or a weapon to suppress these dissent voices. So the critics are actually raising the concerns about abuse of law. Second one is threat to the federal structure of the country. I already told you that the officers from National Investigation Agency are not mandated to take permission of DSP or ACP who work under state governments. That is actually a threat to federal spirit of our constitution. And the third important challenge was no pre-legislative consultation with states. Before enacting this particular law or before coming up with different amendments to this particular act, the central government never consulted with states, never consulted with all stakeholders who involve in this particular matter, who involve in this particular investigation system. That is the third important criticism. Now let us look at the fourth important criticism. Designating an individual as a terrorist raises serious constitutional questions and has the potential for misuse. We discussed this one in the first point. So this particular act was prone to misuse. This particular act was prone to abuse. The party in the power at the center may use this particular act as a weapon to suppress dissent voices. And again, an individual cannot be called a terrorist prior to the conviction of a court of law. Prior to one's conviction, one individual, he cannot be called as a terrorist. It is actually against the principle of innocent until proven guilty. Until or unless an individual was proven guilty of a particular crime, he continues to be an innocent. But here, you are designating a particular individual as a terrorist with mere allegation. So that is so wrong. That is unfair. A wrongful designation will cause irreplaceable damage to a person's reputation, career and livelihood. Let's suppose if I am raising dissent voices against the central government, if the central government designates me as a terrorist, though the courts prove that I am not a terrorist, I never involved in terrorist activities, but still my family, my reputation and my career will get to the dust. That is what the main concern about this Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. I hope no important arguments in favor of this particular UAPA and important article against this particular UAPA, criticism and concerns. I hope you understood every aspect of this particular topic. Now without any further delay, let's get into the next article of our discussion. So now let us look at the next article of our discussion. The title of this particular article says Concern over shortage of leprosy drug in private sector. Very, very important article regarding GS paper 2, health. Right? I picked up this article from the Hindu's Delhi edition and the page number is page number 12. Right? So let us get into this particular article. Very important article in the exam perspective. Again, especially for prelims, this article is very, very, very important. So what was given in this particular news article? An important drug, that is clofazimine, which is a key drug used for the treatment of leprosy disease, which had been in short supply in the Indian market for several months. Especially, this drug was accessible to government agencies, that means government hospitals and government medical shops. But the private sector, like private hospitals and all, they are facing too many issues with the shortage of this particular drug. And health experts, medical experts, what they are stating that the situation is turning into a crisis over the past 3 months. From around 3 months, these medical agencies were facing a very severe shortage of this particular important drug, that is clofazimine. Very, very important. And the doctors who are actually treating the leprosy patients, they are more concerned about the health of their patients. So they have returned to the health ministry for urgent intervention and immediate restoration of the medicine supply in the private sector. They are actually pleading for the government's intervention in this particular issue, and they want to make sure the seamless supply of this particular medicine in private sector. Now, let us try to understand some important aspects about the disease called leprosy. What exactly is leprosy and what kind of parasite causes this disease leprosy? Let us get into the details of this particular article. Leprosy is also known as Hansen's disease. This is another name for this particular leprosy disease. And this leprosy is actually a bacterial infection, since it is caused by a bacterium called Mycobacterium leprae. A bacteria named Mycobacterium leprae, which is responsible for this infection called leprosy. And it is called one of the oldest diseases in recorded history. From even thousands of years, this particular infection, this particular bacteria has been infecting humans on our planet. And it is well recognized in the oldest civilizations of China, Egypt and India thousands of years ago. Thousands of years ago, many texts and many sources on these oldest civilizations, they mentioned about this particular infection, that is leprosy. And genetic evidences and genetic studies, they support the existence of leprosy infections in 100,000-year-old remains. With the help of genetic advancements and scientific advancements, scientists from medical domain, they actually observed and studied the remains of 100,000 years old, and what they get to know is this particular leprosy was actually existed in the remains of those times as well. And the disease is characterized by a long incubation period. That means it usually takes about 3 to 5 years for the symptoms to appear after coming into contact with leprosy causing bacteria. If you come to contact with leprosy causing bacteria, the symptoms will never appear right away. The symptoms will appear only after 3 to 5 years after the victim's encounter with this particular bacteria. Very, very important. I have added some infographic as well for your reference, and these points are very, very important. These points you need to remember for sure. Now let us look at the steps taken by India to eliminate leprosy. The first important measure taken by the government of India, independent India, National Leprosy Control Program in 1955. In 1955, Government of India, then Government of India, came up with a very comprehensive program to eradicate this leprosy disease, that is National Leprosy Control Program. And second important program was National Leprosy Eradication Program in 2002. In 2002, the Government of India came up with a new and novel project, novel comprehensive project, that is National Leprosy Eradication Program. In 2016, a draconian colonial law, that is Lepers Act, was actually repealed. So this act prevents the victims of this particular disease to live with the community, to live with their family members. On the basis of gender, they get separated. Those people who were infected by leprosy, they will get separated and they will be displaced to a new place. And you all know, discriminating on the grounds of the infection or disease is unfair. That is the reason why this draconian colonial law, that is Lepers Act, was repealed by the Government of India. In 2017, the Government of India came up with another important program, that is Sparsh Leprosy Awareness Campaign. So why Government of India came up with this particular program? To promote awareness, to make the people aware of this particular disease and address the issues of stigma and discrimination associated with this particular disease. Those people who caught this infection were more prone to discrimination, were more prone to exclusion from the society. To make people aware of this particular disease and to make people eliminate the stigma around this particular disease, government came up with this particular Sparsh Leprosy Awareness campaign. In 2019, Lok Sabha passed a bill seeking to remove leprosy as a ground for divorce. So after the passage of this particular bill, one cannot seek divorce stating that his or her partner had been infected with this particular leprosy disease. I hope it is clear till now. These are some important steps taken by Indian government to eliminate leprosy. Right? So let us discuss the next article. So the next and the last article of our today's discussion is Amarnath Yatra begins after a gap of 3 years. Very, very important article regarding GS paper 1. We discussed this particular article as part of our art and culture syllabus. I picked up this particular article from the Delhi edition of the Hindu, page number 10. Very, very important article. So what was the context of this particular article? After a gap of 3 years, the Amarnath Yatra, a holy pilgrimage to the holy shrine of Amarnath, started, and a lot many pilgrims started their journey to this particular holy shrine in Kashmir. So let us get into the details of this particular article and deal it comprehensively. So recently, the administration of Jammu and Kashmir has given its green signal to the reopening of Amarnath Cave Shrine. So many enthusiasts from all corners of the country, hundreds of devotees, they made their way up to the cave from the twin routes, that is Sonmarg and Pahalgam, on day 1 of the Yatra on Thursday. So on Thursday, the pilgrimage to this holy site Amarnath started, and a lot many number of devotees and lot many number of tourist enthusiasts, they actually started their trek to this Amarnath cave, right? So let us get into the details of this particular topic. So first you need to understand the significance of Amarnath Yatra. Very, very important. The Amarnath cave is deep in the Himalayas in South Kashmir. So in the southern part of Kashmir Valley, there was a holy cave, that is Amarnath cave in the Himalayas. And this cave is actually 3,888 meters above sea level. And this particular cave can be reached only by foot, or that is only by trekking or by a pony. Pony is a kind of horse. And it is known to everyone that every year hundreds and thousands of pilgrims, they make their trek up to the shrine despite facing adverse conditions while traveling. And this shrine is actually dedicated to Lord Shiva. Very, very important, and it has its own significance in Hindu mythology and the people who follow Hinduism. Right? Let us look at the next slide. So now let us look at how the deity in the shrine is formed. The unique and important feature of this particular shrine is the lingam, which is the personification of Lord Shiva, which is made up of ice. The ice lingam, it will be formed by a trickle of water from a cleft in the cave's roof. So here cleft means gap. On the cave's roof, there will be a gap. Through this gap, a drop by drop water will fall onto the surface. And while dipping from the roof, the water gets to solidify because of the low temperatures in Kashmir. So this solidified water will form as a lingam, and that is how the deity of the shrine is actually formed. The Shivalingam gets its full shape in May, after which it begins to melt by August. So one can see the full form of this particular lingam between May and August. Very, very important. The water freezes as it drips, forming over a time a tall, smooth ice stalagmite. Very, very important. Stalagmite is an upward growing that have precipitated from water dripping onto the floor of a cave. Stalagmite is upward growing. This is what stalagmite, which prolutes from the ground. Whereas stalactite is an icicle shaped formation that hangs from the ceiling of a cave. So this is actually stalactite, very very important, and it is produced by precipitation of minerals from water dripping through cave ceiling, very very important. And the most stalactites have pointed tips. The stalactites will have pointed tips, and most of the stalagmites, just like Amarnath Shrine, Amarnath Lingam, they will actually have rounded or flattened tips. So rounded and flattened tips, very very important. You may get a question in prelims about this particular stalagmite and stalactite and all, very very important points. I hope you understood this particular topic as well, very very important in the exam perspective. So this is all about this particular article, and this is all about today's The Hindu analysis. I hope you understood all these articles from the basics and the background, and thank you so much for watching the entire video. Let's meet tomorrow. Okay, bye ma.